All right, let's go ahead and dive right into learning about HTML. Now, before we begin, the first thing that we want to do is create a new folder on your system. So typically I would make this folder in the main drive of my computer, and I would call it the name of the business, the company, the client, or the website that I'm working with. However, just to make it easy, I'm going to put this folder on my desktop, and that way we can just contain all of our files there. It's easy to access and you can see it at all times. So I'm on a Windows machine. I'm just going to right click. I'm going to go to New Folder, and we'll just call this Website. You can call it whatever you would like. And to begin learning HTML, you're going to need two things. You're going to need a text editor to write the HTML code, and you're going to need a web browser. And the great thing about this is you already have these installed on your system. If you're running a PC, you can use the Notepad application that comes with Windows. And if you are on a Macintosh, you can use TextEdit. And these are basic text editors that will allow us to save out our HTML files and bring those up into a browser. Now, you can see that I have Notepad down here on the bottom left-hand corner. So I just took it from the applications directory and dragged it down here just so it's easy to access. And you will also see that I have Google Chrome, and that is the web browser that I use that I prefer. I think it's efficient, and also it has some capabilities for web developers that are really nice. So you may want to go ahead and install Google Chrome now if you don't have it installed already. Now, you can also use other web browsers. You can see on my machine I also have Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, and it's a good idea to test your website against these different browsers as you begin writing code and making web pages, because sometimes the code is actually going to look different on different web browsers and also different screen resolutions. So it's a good idea to download a couple of different web browsers and check them as you begin writing out your code. Now, I'll go ahead and open up the Notepad application here. And just for a quick note, I did make the font a little bigger. So as you can see, it's 16. It might be 10 or 12 on your system, but I made it a little bigger just so it would be easy to see as we begin writing our code. Now, I'm using a basic text editor like Notepad because it doesn't have any formatting capabilities like Microsoft Word. And you typically don't want to use a program like Word because what happens is it will automatically format HTML code within the document, and we don't want that at all. So when we create a link or copy and paste a link, we don't want it to automatically format for us. It can throw our code off. So we use a basic text editor like Notepad so that we can make sure that we don't have any formatting going on as we begin writing our code. Now, they do have HTML editors, which are great for web developers. They make it really easy. They help your workflow out. However, I encourage you to start with a basic editor like Notepad or TextEdit so that you can learn the process and the code and why things are without using some of the features of an HTML editor, such as auto-completion. And auto-completion is when you start typing, it'll try to guess what you're trying to type in. And that is a great feature. It's wonderful for your workflow. However, I want you to learn why things are the way they are as you begin writing this code, and also how to find and troubleshoot errors in the code yourself without relying on an HTML editor. Now, later on, we will look at some HTML editors that you can use. However, at the beginning, let's just use what you have on your system and make it nice and simple to get started. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to write in some text, and I'm going to save out this file. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to go to Desktop and go to the website folder that we created. And I'm just going to call this index, which is going to be the name of the file. Typically, index.html is the first file that a web page loads, so it's the main file that you see when you go to a website. Now, you can call this anything you want. I can call it jeremy.html or home.html, but I'm going to call this index.html, and we're saving this as a .html extension, and that's what's going to contain our code. We also want to change the encoding to UTF-8, and this is the most standard coding for HTML code. We can get into this a little bit later on, but for now, just go ahead and change that to UTF-8, and I've named it index.html. I'm going to hit save. It has saved that into our folder. So if I open up that folder, here we can see that because we named it .html, Chrome recognized it as an HTML document, and it even put the Chrome icon there, so we know that this is an HTML document. Now, if I just left click this twice and open it up, you can see that there we have this is some text.html file. You can see the file path here and index.html. Now, Chrome is smart enough to know that when we type in text, it's going to automatically display that. However, we haven't written any HTML code yet. This is just the first steps into showing you how to save out your HTML file, and now we'll begin looking at how we can create that HTML code and save it out into a web page or HTML format.